the break, we had an opportunity to um, have a little. We had some discussions around um, math. Joe Boulder's book in regards to what math got to do with it. We also looked at two videos, one around fraction misconceptions, and then we ended with the video regarding our favorite no and how that worked. So with that said,
Anthony, let me just say super quick. I put the link to the My Favorite No in the chat because I think it's in the folder, but I can't remember, and I wanted to do that before I went to look at the folder. So there, it's in there in case you want to watch that video again. Sorry, Anthony.
No problem. No problem. Thank you. And so I want to start off by asking, why do students struggle with math? Now that we've read a little, we've watched a few videos, and we've discussed with ourselves, whole group, I want to put you all in a breakout room for just about 2 minutes or so to talk about why do students struggle with math. And then when we come back, we'll do a whole group discussion on that. But give you an opportunity to speak with someone. So, Christina, if you'd be so kind to open up your breakout room again.
All set.
Okay. So about 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, I set it for 3 minutes, and then there's the countdown. So.
Perfect.
Luis, Martina, do you guys need help getting to the room? And I taught students how to pass the GED, as well as it's a test called the HiSET, which is a little bit easier than the GED, but a lot of, again, you really only needed to be at like an 8th grade math level to pass this test, and a lot of my students were not even there. So I had to build up those skills, and I really got a chance to focus on all those mistakes and thinking.
I see. Okay, got you. Okay, sounds good.
Okay. And what's your name?
My name is Shitra.
Shitra.
Yeah.
And I think we have someone else in here.
Yeah, my name is Luis.
Luis.
Sorry, I had to step away. What was the question that they were asking?
Oh, why do students struggle with math?
I think it's that there's a lot of like vocabulary that they don't know. They're used to seeing a lot of procedural work, not really conceptual understanding. They like the teacher to do it for them. When I transitioned to IM this semester, they really are used to, like, again, procedural work. They're not used to collab. They're not used to talking about it. And most of the time, I feel like they feel lost. So I give them that extra help, and I give them like the first 2 to 3 sentences for them to get started.
Oh, okay. I'm new to IM as well, and I've been using Desmos, but we were told that IM is the main focus, and I'm supposed to use Desmos as the support. Chitra, what do you use?
We use IM as well. I mean, this is our first year using IM, but it is really good actually because it has a lot of math talks, introducing kids to support or just provide motivation learning.
Okay. So, Luis, can you explain what you mean by you give them the first 2 to 3 sentences to start? Can you, or do we need to talk more about why do they struggle with math?
No, what I meant by that is, like, I give them, like, you know how there is the math talk, like with the card sorting, or things they have to figure out. I give them like kind of like the first 2 to 3 answers to give them a head start if everyone is really struggling. Otherwise,
okay.
The class will get nowhere. So and then from there, I just back off and then let them do the
Yeah.
rest.
So you mean give the answers for the first three problems and they get to figure out the rest?
Yeah, just that's only if the entire class is actually stuck. Then
Oh,
I
okay.
back off, and then because if I don't back off, then I'm just gonna do everything for them. It already
True.
happened to me once this semester,
True. That's true.
but yeah, it's new for them and for us. Or for me.
Yeah.
Definitely. I agree with whatever you said. I also feel they struggle with math because sometimes.
Oh, I got pulled back in.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering if we were. Oh, okay. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
And I was with Chitra and Luis.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I think the breakouts are ready to end anyway.
Oh, okay.
You'll be okay.
We're over. The breakouts are. Everyone's back, Anthony.
Okay. Yeah. Then okay.
There'll be more time to talk.
Yes, there will be. I was sending a chat to Martina. I don't know if she got that. I'm not sure. Are you able to hear us?
Now I am. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay. So what were some, yes. So what were some things that were discussed in your rooms? What are your thoughts about why people struggle with mathematics?
I think it's because a lot of I'm new to fifth grade. I came from TK, so the students struggle because they're embarrassed to make mistakes, and of course in fifth grade kids love to laugh at each other, make jokes, and then so a lot of kids don't want to participate, don't want to be. And even though we do that share out, and the kids come up and say, "Who wants to volunteer to share how they've solved their problem?" And I keep telling them, we learn from our mistakes, and it's okay to make mistakes, but still, some students, laugh or giggle, and it makes the other kids nervous. So I do get a lot of volunteers to come up and share, but they are embarrassed to make mistakes.
Now, thinking back on the video we watched just before the break, do you see like the benefit of doing something like that, where you get them in the habit of looking at other people's mistake versus that student doing it?
I loved it. I loved the video, and I will try that. But normally we do the warm up. We see the word problem. We go to our tables. We work on our solutions, and then we bring everybody back on the rug. And then I say, okay, who wants to volunteer to show us how you solved it? So that might your strategy might help somebody who might be struggling, or is they just need a little bit more to get that solve their problem. But yeah, definitely I will try to use that card. That way it's completely anonymous, and that way nobody gets feels like you're putting them up the front, and kids can laugh at them.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thank you.
What were some thoughts that came up in your conversation?
So in our group, it was that they don't remember the procedures, as well as the vocab they don't know. And then Luis suggested if they're really struggling and no one can get it, he gives them 2 to 3 sentences to start. So in my department, we've talked about having sentence frames that they can use, especially because I'm not familiar with IM, but Desmos, they're not giving the vocab up front. It's just you're explaining your thinking with everyday language. And so by having sentence frames that don't require vocab at first while you're explaining your thinking would be helpful.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well,
My experience, lack of strategies was a problem.
They didn't quite know how to get started when they were given, let's say, a word problem. They didn't know how to pull it apart and how to consider those numbers in relation to what was being asked of them.
I was just at this was yesterday. I was speaking with one of our teachers. No, it was Thursday. Speaking with one of the teachers, just as she and her daughter were ready to leave for the day, and I was just making talk with the daughter, and she was telling me how math was a challenge for her, and so I was just sharing some things with her about that same kind of thing. Just keep persevering and look, trying different things. Her mother's a wonderful teacher, in my opinion, through my observations with her, and I also shared this book with mother, and she's like, she's seen it before but hadn't really read it. And I told her, take a look, and these could be some things you kind of support her with at home, just to get her that mindset change. Because the daughter, I could tell she was like, well, I can't do it. I can't do it. So she's still stuck in that part. So some of the things that we identified, and again, this is no exhaustive list. Two of you just shared some things that you discussed in your group, but just something that we've noted and we've pulled from various readings, both like our mindset, mathematical mindset, and the what's math got to do with it. But one is that the students' primary experience is revolving around saying and writing rather than building that understanding about cardinality, understanding the relationship between numbers. They're learning math it with no context. It's just straight computations or algorithms, and these algorithms often introduced before the students are really ready, developmentally ready for them. So they memorize an algorithm, but not understanding why that algorithm works. Much like the 114 minus 72 problem. There may have been some issues there, not seeing that 11 that will already exist. Additionally, I think Christina just mentioned it, lack of strategies. Knowing what to do, where do I start? Especially, by second grade, when those word problems start to kick in, the children, they may not have been taught how to go through that problem and discard the information that is not needed. And then figuring out what is the real question, what is the ask in this word problem, what do they want you to share as your answer. And so just strategies like that. Also, gotta know what tools to use. How do I get to this? So strategies is another, the lack of strategies. Lack of thinking tools. I just alluded to that. What do I need to use in order to do this or to solve this problem? And I think I had one more. And so, like I said, this by no means, this is just 4 things here you all share in your groups, so that lets you know there's other reasons why students struggle. And once we can tap into those and find out why they're struggling, maybe we can address those needs and then get students back on the right track where they are engaging with the numbers in a more productive way.
Can I just share a strategy really quick, Anthony? One of my, notice I asked him and then I just started talking. Sorry, buddy. One of my favorite strategies, my second graders and I decided to start writing lists for ourselves of how to solve word problems, and so we'd have a word problem, we'd talk about it, we'd make a plan, and then we charted our list. So first you've got to read the whole thing. Then you've got to figure out what they're asking. Then you've got to figure out what number, so we made like a chart for ourselves of how to do it, what were the steps. And then that went up on the wall in my sort of math area in my classroom. And what was so cute was the next time we had a word problem, a couple of my students picked up their math journals and they walked over and they looked at the wall and they were reading it really intently. And then they were making notes for themselves and they were showing me that they remembered that we charted these strategies. And it became like a competition of who could get to the chart first to show me that they were really thinking through their word problem. And it was just so great to see them not only making the chart, that was fun and useful in and of itself, but to watch them remember that they had this resource and that there was a way to do it and there were things for them to try. It was just really great to watch that connection being built. So, get some chart paper and make some lists with your class. What are some steps? What are some things we can try? What are some strategies we can use? And that's a great way to develop your classroom walls as a teaching tool because it's up, it's reminders, they can walk over and reference it. So keep that in mind as you start to notice the things that your kids really struggle with. That may be a way to support them and make your classroom really reflective of what you guys are working on and focused on.
Thanks for sharing that, Christina. Thank you. Okay. So, the materials, and I think Christina shared this link at the beginning, you received math practices, and this is a tool that is available through LAUSD, and that's where we got it from. In your confirmation email, or like I say, or Christina dropped it in the chat earlier, that you were provided, and they even look like this if you printed them out. If you're really savvy with the copier, you can print them into a small booklet as well for something that you can share with the student. I don't know if you can see it. But they're
yourself in front of your face, man. We can't hear you.
Oh, I was just trying to show that this could be printed in a little booklet form for something to share with the students as well as with parents.
Yeah, great resource for parents.
As a tool. So we're going to be using this for the remainder of the day in some form. And so I want to give you just about 2 minutes to take a look at, just skim them and just kind of get an understanding of what they're saying. You'll notice in bold at the top, it's the practice, and then the bottom portion of the page kind of tells descriptions. But I want to give you just about 2 minutes to take a look at those, and then we'll move forward.
And just so you know, the English and Spanish versions of this are in the folder. So if you needed it in Spanish as well, we'll give that to you.
Okay, so and again, that wasn't for you to, master all the information that's on each of the pages, just to give you a little browse, because we will be referring to them. And we will give you additional time a little later. As we said at the beginning of the class today, you were going to be participating as learners today. And you've been doing that already because you've been going into your readings and your discussion groups. But now we're going to get to that part where our title says using math in a fun way. So to us, it's really fun. We're hoping that you will find some joy in going through these games that we're going to play. Something else I wanted to share before we get to it. When I was in the classroom, and most of my teaching was primary, but I did have an opportunity to teach almost every grade, with the exception of kinder and fourth grade. I did not teach those classes at all. I think I subbed 3 days in a fourth grade class. That was about it for fourth grade. But I did teach all of the other grades at some point. But the majority of my classroom instruction was in first and second grade. And I said that to say is I never taught math. So my children were never, we never said, okay, it's time for us to, do our math. I always use the word play. It's time for us to play math. What 5, 6, 7-year-old child do you know that doesn't like to play? So I'm waiting. Because, everyone likes, children like to play. So that's how we always looked at it. It was always, it's time for us to play math. And every math block, I always started off with some sort of activity. And I'm not talking, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. It could have been a 2-minute type of something for them just to feel that they were playing. And then I would lead into the work that we were going to do. I tried to connect it to something. And a lot of times it was the same thing over and over, but just getting them ready to think about playing math. And so that was just something I would do, because I understood to get them to relax and loosen up that anxiety. And so that's what we're ready to do. We're ready to play math. And we'll talk about where the math is in each of these activities as we conclude those activities. So, what are some tools for mathematics? And the second question I have up there is when is it appropriate to use them? But really right now, I'd like for you to just share out and think all out the box, think real big. What are tools for mathematics? You can share, just start sharing them out, chat, but just go for it. We want to hear everything that's a tool for mathematics.
We've got some coming in the chat. Paper and pencil, calculators, manipulatives, visuals, ratio tables, Unifix cubes, 100 charts, hands and fingers.
Okay, that's a protractor, ruler, tracing paper, 100 charts. My husband counts and multiplies with his hands. Okay.
They said until they started hearing the tools, they weren't connecting to that. Sometimes you need, just like Anthony said, sometimes you need to get that brain in the right thinking, right, in order to access what you know. And your students have that trouble too. It's not that they don't know things about math and numbers. It's that you have to get them started. You have to set the table so that they can access their thinking. Ooh, an enthusiastic mind. I love that.
Mhm.
Clocks and rulers, Anthony.
Okay. Yes. Box, ruler. Yeah.
Marie says she reinforces that any tool is useful. And that's true, Marie. Tools can be used in a variety of ways, but it's also important to have a conversation about which tools are appropriate for which task, right? I always share the example. I had a student, man, he could kill with tally marks. He was awesome with tally marks. That was his tool. And it worked fabulous while we were adding 1 and 2 digit numbers. But once we started adding 3-digit numbers, his tally mark strategy was not effective or efficient because he would get confused and lose count and make mistakes, and so it became burdensome to his task. It worked great in one area but not in another, and so we had to have a conversation about, what tool could be used instead, since this is actually slowing you down, man.
Right. Right. But the tool is, again, it's not appropriate in every situation. So now, what I just displayed on the board or on your screen, those are just, again, some things. And then you can see it's a variety of things there. You may not, it wasn't mentioned, things like dominoes can be a tool. You notice in the cluster picture, there's various shapes, and again, it's all in how you're using it. There's flashcards, there's 10 blocks. So tools, again, as it was said, can be almost anything as long as it's being used in a productive way and at an appropriate time. You also see I have the number line again I put there. The number line is a good tool, and it can be used a lot of ways. So with that said, if we were to think back to our math practices, which math practice would we be referring to when we discuss using tools?
Not a trick question.
I just want to hear something. What do you think it could be? What could our answer be?
Number 6.
Have to count.
Let's see. I have something at home here. Number 5, use appropriate tools strategically.
Yeah, and that's it. And this again was not a trick question. That one was really easy. And so using tools is a strategy, but our students have to use the appropriate tools and know when and when not to use it. Calculator, is a calculator an appropriate tool? At times it is going to be an appropriate tool. And our students need to know how to use that tool in order to be successful with it. So just because they have the tool, sometimes our students may not know how to use that tool. So we have to make sure that they know how to use the tools and when to use those tools.
Thank you. I want to just, I've been having a direct message conversation with one of our teachers, and the question was asked about sticking to whatever your school's curriculum is. And I just want to clarify that the things that Anthony and I are offering you today are intended to supplement what's in your math program. In other words, we're not saying throw out Eureka Math or throw out My Math. Use those lessons and then build in these different strategies. So instead of just telling kids we're going to solve problems 1 through 5 on Eureka, page 74, dig into problem 1 with them and ask them what tools they're using. Ask them about their strategies. Like, spend good conversation time and then send them to do the work. So it's not about throwing out what you're using. It's about finding ways within that structure to bring these practices to light for them. A lot of the things these practices are asking of you, you're doing. You're probably just not pointing it out to them. And you're probably not asking them to reflect on it. So it's just a matter of adding a little extra or approaching your questioning in a different way to bring to light the things that we're talking about today. It's not about changing the math program that your school might be using. Thank you.
And then I see it was written in the chat that students are graded on using the appropriate tools. So it's going to be important that they have an understanding of when and how to use those tools.
Yeah, so then it's incumbent on you to have those conversations with them, to have those reflective opportunities. Before you send them to work on their own, ask them, gosh, what do you think a good tool for this problem-solving activity might be? And have them do some sharing and reflection on that. So if you know that's being asked of them, it's incumbent on you to create opportunities to reinforce, ask those questions, remind them. That's why having that chart up was really helpful to me, because it was a great reminder for them that we knew how to solve word problems. Sorry, go ahead.
No, okay. Okay, at this point, I need 2 volunteers. And we need 2 volunteers. It's not going to hurt you. I'm just going to need you to speak, unmute yourself and say, hey, I'll be your volunteer. I need 2. This is our first activity that we're going to do.
There are no fractions, if that helps.
There's no fractions.
I can be one of them.
Yay!
All right, I'll be a volunteer too.
Yay!
Marie and Chitra.
Yes.
Thank you both. Thank you. To the rest of the class, let's give them a round of applause for being our brave volunteers. I saw a hand go up. Louise?
I accidentally put up my hand. I was trying to do the applause.
Oh, okay. No,
I'm
I
sorry.
thought it was the hand. It is the applause emoji. Thank you. I apologize. So thank you for our 2 volunteers. We have Marie and we have Chitra, right? Yeah. So I am going to pull a number in just a moment, just so I can determine who's going to go first in our activity. And again, this is going to be very easy. It's not going to be painful at all, I promise. Okay, so I have a number in front of me. Can each of you give me a number between 1 and 10?
I'll go with 5.
Okay, number 5.
7?
Okay. Christina, I'm going to let you figure this one out because my number was 6.
Okay, I'm gonna volunteer to change my number to 1.
Okay, there we go. Marie helped us out.
Okay, thank you. You're such a good sport, Marie.
Good sports, yay!
Okay, so we're going to let Chitra start off. So this game, I started creating this using some cards, and I'll tell the backstory on it. When I took my first elementary contract with the district, I came in to the classroom about 6 weeks into the school year, and the classroom that I took over was a newly formed class, a combo class of first and second graders, and they did not have all the materials for the students when I got in there. The classroom had a series of